Hi guys, welcome to the Founders Chair, where we interview business CEOs and founders of major companies. And today we have a special guest, somebody that has been part of the retail space for over 10 years now, to say the least, and operates at the highest level on retail. None other than Rui Morais, who is actually the current CEO of the Dis-Chem Pharmacy Group. Rui, welcome to the Founders Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for allowing me to catch you here.
Good. Let's see how this goes.
I think the last time I got you was the time when we actually listed our products in Dis-Chem.
That is correct.
And that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it seems like a long time now.
Yeah, it seems like forever now. I want to take you back. It's like just take it back to the young Rui, like growing up. What was your ambition all about? I mean, did you always see yourself being the finance guru, or was it just something that just came?
I think naturally, I was incredibly competitive as a human.
So you just want to shorten the sides?
Yeah, we can just shorten the sides, maybe a 1.5.
1.5. Okay, I got you. Yes.
So I was super competitive as a human. So it almost was, I was agnostic to what I wanted to do, but I kind of enjoyed succeeding in the thing I wanted to do, and I wasn't inherently competitive with other people in all instances, but more with myself. So
yes,
I think that's a personality trait that I carry and continue to carry. When it comes to retail and to finance, I guess, and more recently healthcare delivery.
Yes.
I'll probably be. Yeah, I might be careful what I need to say. I've never been a lover of finance, if I'm particularly honest.
Are you serious?
Yeah, not really.
Wasn't that the go-to when you were younger?
It was, but I think the reasons I went into finance and specifically to CA is I thought that it elevated your ability at a younger age to be in strategic conversations.
Oh.
But I always was really passionate about retail, and then subsequently became even more passionate about, I suppose, the integration of healthcare and retail.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a young me, I guess. I loved retail. I was super competitive, and finance was kind of just a mechanism to get me to the place I needed to go, I guess.
But growing up, was it much more just take it way back to the school days. You understand? Yeah. Apparently I heard that you were completed school at a very young age.
Yes,
how did that come about? Was it also?
Well, I think that my parents just threw me into school early. Maybe I was causing too much chaos at home. I don't know. No, I started school very young, and
yes,
I was also brought up only speaking Portuguese. So
yes,
I'm Portuguese,
yes.
So I was kind of thrown into the deep end. Quickly learned how to speak English, I guess, albeit probably not particularly well in the beginning. But yeah, and then subsequently finished school. I guess during school I did have an inclination to things like maths and accounting.
Yeah.
I did enjoy those aspects of school.
It was much more practical, huh?
Yeah, it was more practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think the schooling system today is quite cool. They really make the maths and I suppose they call it economic sciences or something like that, but they make it kind of life practical, which is very cool.
Yes. So I think especially with myself as well. Well, I was in secondary school. I found accounting to be one of my favorite subjects because it was the easiest thing to do. I think accounting and maths was always my inclination because it was something that you didn't need to study long hours for.
Yes,
and I hated the books much.
Yeah.
And so was
well,
also
100%. I think that the coolest thing about accounting, and again I'm going to use a subject like history.
Yes.
History, it was never principle based, right?
That's true.
And I think accounting and maths, once you got the principle, which was very cool, and once you understood the principles, I enjoyed that aspect of it.
So at which age did you actually start school? Because
I was, I think I just turned 5, or maybe I was 4 and a bit.
What? Are you serious?
So I was super little.
And I was Because I actually started when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
Yeah,
no,
so
I was super little. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
remained little probably throughout the entirety of my school career.
Imagine being able to go to school at the age of 4 years old. It's like,
Oh, I
still
remember
baby
the
like
one day, I think my chair bag was bigger than I was. So, like, that was my default. But like I could jump in my chair bag.
You still have a picture of it.
I'm sure somewhere.
Is it? Yeah, somewhere there's a picture of it.
Exactly.
Well, how cool was that? And I mean, like, that means that you finished school, that you matriculated at 15 years old.
Yeah, I think I just 15, just turned 16. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But how did you feel at that age? I mean, like, was that a normal feeling? Because at that young age, what do you do?
Well, yeah, I think you don't in that moment you don't really realize. Like, I mean, I was. I guess age is just like a number when you're around people that are, I mean, you're friends with, like you have similar interests. So other than being really small, physically, yeah. I mean, I guess it felt normal at the time. It felt like it started to feel a little bit weird when I went to varsity and I couldn't drive for like the first 2 years. Like, that was a bit strange.
You need to get your driver's license and you're like, yeah, not just reach a certain age for you to get to that point.
Yeah.
So when you matriculated, the first thing that you done, then you went to go study your BCom. That was
the first thing I did. Again, I think I really do value. So my dad's a CA, and I really value his opinion on the world. And I think when I was deciding what I wanted to do, and strangely enough, it was either that or being a medical doctor. Which
are you serious?
Yeah, also interested me because being a doctor. The interest of being a doctor was that it was like problem solving, which is quite similar to, I mean, if you think about the stuff that I do today, or accounting or maths.
Yes.
But one of the pieces of advice my dad gave me was what I described earlier, in that it does give you at quite a young age the ability to contribute strategically. Because unlike an operational position, like you're not beholden to experience, right? Like you don't have to, in operations, it makes sense, you need a certain level of experience to get a specific position in the organization, whereas, with finance, if you're able to do the job, that skill set is required at the highest level. So to me, it just made a lot of sense at the time to go and study that.
Because I think it's one of the jobs that till today hasn't become mundane, because people still need finances. I mean, like if you look at it, in all businesses, there's a CA that's actually required. And I think that's how business is actually being run today. Back then it wasn't as much in demand as it is today. And I think that's also another aspect to it. Do you think what had been said, like the degree gave you like some sort of understanding as to the real world? Because I also, so funny thing is that I matriculated and I went to go do like my BCom in accounting, and I dropped out the second year, and I just didn't enjoy it. It felt different compared to school, because
it was super unrelatable, to be honest, initially. I think the first time I started to, so I mean, for me the interest in accounting or in finance was always, like, I mean, if you think about a number, like in accounting, the number's a consequence of a whole bunch of decisions, that people have made.
Yes.
And what always interested me was the decisions behind the number. So, like if you think about reading a number, like the art of reading a number, which to your point is why I think, it is one of the, I suppose, qualifications that finds itself in almost every industry.
That's right.
Like it's one thing recording a number, but being able to read a number and understand what it means and then make the strategic decisions off it. Which is the thing that interested me. I only really experienced when I started to do my articles. And like, I guess that gave me the ability to see numbers and translate them into like the real workings of commerce. So up until then, I kind of I guess I just stayed invested, to get there. But it is a little bit mundane up front.
Yeah, because especially I was at Ernst Young, because at Ernst Young when you were doing basically your practicals, I mean like just being able just to experience the real world, you understand, from that point of view, and not just the books, because the book says one thing, but being able to experience it hand on. And I think that's the reason, that's when you actually fell in love with Dis-Chem. Was that the first time? Yeah.
I mean, at Ernst Young, I was fortunate enough to land within like the retail vertical, so something that I really loved.
Yes.
And then part of that was the ability to initially engage on the Dis-Chem audit. And I think when I joined, I mean, there were so many challenges from an auditing perspective on the group, because the group had just gone onto SAP. It was a very, very entrepreneurial business.
Yes.
Like there was this rigid German system that was dropped on top of it, and like the consequences of that is it creates auditing problems. But for me, the problems were like super real opportunities to get close to individuals like Ivan, and get to learn and understand their thinking, and it played out like that. So I mean, very grateful that was the path that led me to the Dis-Chem brand.
Yeah. With that being said, because you saw it from a bird's eye point of view, and when us as entrepreneurs, we're so entrenched in our businesses and we see exactly. But what was the opportunities that you saw back then? Just being able just to look at it from your point of view back then as to the business as a nutshell.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I actually my original engagement with Ivan was not Dis-Chem related. So I mean, as a self-backed entrepreneur, I guess.
Yes.
I had started like a figurine business during articles. I'm also unsure if I can say that, but anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the licensing rights from Pirates and Chiefs, and we moved some product into retail. But one of the things that we needed to solve for was exactly that. How do we move product into retail?
Yeah.
And the distributor that we used effectively facilitated the distribution, but only if you had a relationship with a retailer. I think because of that background, like my relationship with Ivan was very much commercially led.
Yes.
Always, even though I was doing an audit job.
Yeah.
So like to your point, like I had always saw the opportunities to scale a brand, which I think at the time was very, very differentiated. So I mean, I think the one thing that I quickly saw in the brand was that what you had a philosophy to pharmacy that was being applied in retail. And what I mean by that, and it's a simple principle, but pharmacy is so service orientated, like you focus so much on the customer from a service perspective.
Yes, that's true.
And Ivan and Stan and the original founders and Lynette had done the same thing in what were traditional front shop categories. So if you think about even today, how we service health or how we service beauty, the origins of that comes from like a pharmacist mentality where you're engaging with the customer and you're doing a very pointed selling job, by managing the expectation or engaging at the service level with the customer. So that was always like a super scalable thing. I mean, I think at the time it was also very obvious that pharmacy in South Africa was at the point of being very disruptive. Like it was super independently, it was owned by lots of independents and no corporates, not to the degree it is today. So those are probably the two biggest opportunities that I saw in the brand. Yeah, because especially if you look at how things have shifted over the course in time, is that pharmacy becomes much more the smaller part of the business, where basically the retail becomes much more the bigger element of the chain itself. Yeah, I mean, I think even embedded in the strategy today, I mean, everything that we're trying to do, like to future-proof the organization, I mean, the one thing that we never do is compromise on owning the script. And what I mean by that is, like I've always said that the script is your ticket to success.
Yes.
Like servicing the script is what makes us different to traditional retail, and that in essence is healthcare delivery. So I mean, like owning and servicing and maintaining and growing the script volume is super crucial, because it does allow you to sell the rest of the front shop.
Because although it consists of 10 or 20% of the business itself, it does contribute to the overall part of the business, because you get people coming into the store just for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's close on 40% now, so it's quite big, but to your point, the front shop's bigger. But like, I mean, if you think about the nature of like someone who who is coming for a chronic drug, coming
Yes.
once a month, they are the best returning customers for us.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's probably the best example of why the script's so important.
I say like especially with that, it's like how the transformation of Dis-Chem compared to many years ago, and now it's like much more tech driven and just being able just to advance technology in such a way. Do you think that plays such a massive role in terms of just getting the competitive advantage moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, and I mean, certainly my focus has been on like this concept of digitizing retail.
Yeah.
And I think like it's a fundamental belief I have, but a lot of the skill sets of the past can be replicated, and they can only be replicated when I talk about them being replicated. It's not a function of doing a disservice to the skill set of the past, but if you think about like the concept of a true trader.
Yes.
True traders existed in a world that didn't necessarily have data points.
That's true.
Right, so intuition kind of led innovation. And in today's world, like a lot of that, not the entirety of it, but a lot of that can be replicated, and it certainly can be scaled a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So like if you're not thinking about how to lead like retail digitally with data,
Yes.
especially at our scale. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously different if you're an independent business or a single store, but at our scale, if you're not thinking about that, I think ultimately you're at risk, right? Because everyone else is doing that.
Yeah, because everyone is doing it, and I mean, like technology becomes at the forefront of what you do.
Absolutely.
And this is exactly when I visited the offices in Malgazach, the bakery offices. I mean, just to being able just to have that experience on what the forefront of technology is. How did that idea come about? Was it just something that you always wanted to do?
Well, I think the idea, I mean, there were many facets to the idea. So, I mean, Bigly was, I suppose, a consequence of a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, when I kind of stepped into the role, the one thing that I kind of needed to ensure was that, like, culturally, like what I wanted out of the brand and what everyone who worked for the brand wanted out of the brand were aligned, right?
Yes.
So, like, we started this culture movement that was really driven by an election-style process where everyone voted and contributed to understanding what they wanted out of the brand. And I think one of the strongest things that came out of that was this concept of healthcare delivery, but more importantly, like being at the forefront of technology, right?
Yeah.
So like a lack of acceptance for things being clunky and slow, and this real need for us to be fast and agile. So that was the one element that shaped and influenced the decision on Bigly. The other was that I did know that the way that we were retailing traditionally needed to change. So, like if you think about a concept like digital penetration, like historically an online store would have been treated like another store. Right? It would have been treated like store number 320. And the reality is that an online store is enterprise-wide. When you build a digital offering, like the physical space and the digital world need to work together. So it just becomes the front end of what you can do digitally and physically, and it needs to be completely integrated into what you do. And to enable that, you need to change the ways of working internally, and that's exactly what Bigly was. It was a very agile way, an agile, fast-moving way of like a real heavy lift on the things that needed to drastically change to lead us in retail from a digital and tech perspective.
Yeah, because I think like just being able to separate it and basically the culture split as well, it just talks a lot, because I mean, like, I was there and just looking at the whole excitement. It feels like a small Google in a way.
It does. It very much feels like a little lab. And the truth is, it actually works and operates like a little lab. I mean, it's quite a thing, and probably not something that a veteran retailer would have ever foreseen. But I mean, like, there are certain people that are paid and their bonuses are dependent on them finding things to fail at, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
And I mean, it sounds a little crazy, but the reality is if you don't encourage that type of forward thinking, you never find the next.
Yeah, because I think being able to invest into that also says a lot about the company and says a lot about where you're going to as a business.
I mean, if the truth is, I mean, one of the things that I kind of asked myself is I could have stepped into the role and I could have been safe. But the reality is, if you're safe, like in a place of safety, you hardly ever change fundamentally, right? So,
That's true.
like if you're ambitious, if the brand has got the ability to be ambitious and do like real good, like and if it needs change, you need to feel uncomfortable about your, you know, when you step into the role.
Yes.
So, you know, my first 3 years I felt a little uncomfortable, but I think looking back, like if I didn't feel uncomfortable, I probably wouldn't have done justice to what I was trying to do.
That's so true. That's true. What has been that, especially in the role that you are now? I mean, like, what has been one of those big lessons that you take from, and it's like, you know what, I wish I could have done this a bit earlier in retrospect.
I think the thing that I learned relatively quickly, but I would have loved to know going into the role, was just like the importance of ensuring that you invest in aligning the team.
Yes.
And when I say invest in aligning the team, like it's one thing to align the team, it's another thing to execute on that same alignment.
Yeah.
But aligning the team like is priority one, and then ensuring that you have the resources that, you know, ultimately can do the job that everyone kind of is pointed at is super crucial, right? Because like I love to be detailed and I love to be involved, but at the same time, you know, the one thing that is true of everyone is everyone has got a certain amount of time in the day.
Yes.
So I didn't want to be the bottleneck to, you know, resources that we're very capable of delivering into something that we collectively wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get comfortable with that.
Yes. Because you end up finding that everyone comes to you for the answers.
Yeah, I mean, you would know about that, right?
Yeah.
Like it's an uncomfortable thing to, when you're scaling, it's an uncomfortable thing to let go.
To let go, because at the end of the day, this is something that you started and it's something that you initiated from the get-go, you understand, and you want to be there to hold its hands.
Yeah,
but I think one of the most difficult things as leaders, we tend to hold on the reins and not actually empower the next person. And I think that's actually one of our biggest flaws. Just think about in retrospect. Do you think that your role now as a CEO is much more trying to lead from the front? Because just looking at everything about Rui is like you have to look at your lifestyle. I mean, like, you are a yield guy, you have to watch your wellness and it's just basically everything in a nutshell, just being able to lead from the front. Do you think that plays such a big role?
I mean, I think as a leader, I mean, one of the other things that and maybe it's different depending on your situations, but one of the other things that I guess I maybe underestimated is that you as an individual become a representation of the brand to some degree. Yeah. And it forces you to be super responsible about how, for example, how you live your life, how you buy into the values of the group, the ambition of the group. Not only for you, not only for your relationship with the group, but also as a function of your leadership style, you know.
Yes.
So like, if your cultural alignment is the same as the group, then, you know, it should almost become the decision framework that you use to make every decision.
Yes, that's true.
So that has been very interesting, and it's not always easy to deal with.
Yeah.
But it has been super interesting to go through.
Do you think the lessons that you accumulated was like based on the people skills much more than anything else? Because although you might know the technicalities of what it is to run a big operation, now you're like, you know what, I have to be able to understand how people's mindset work. Yeah.
I mean, it's super cliched, you know, when you talk about people as assets, and sometimes a little insensitive. But But the truth is, like, when you think about the individuals that are working with you, you know, pursuing this vision, like, you also have to accept and be responsible for the fact that, you know, like, personal situations influence how individuals show up, and you've got to be as sensitive as you can to that, like, because at the end of the day, like, those are as important to understand as whether the person is technically capable. Yeah. So, you know, that sensitivity is super important. And then I guess the other thing that I've learned, which is going to sound a bit crazy, is like how often you have to repeat your strategy. Like, you know, Megan, who's kind of leads our marketing, you know, she once joked with me and said, like, your role is less CEO and it's more CRO, like Chief Repeat Officer. and I kind of giggled at the time, but I mean, it's becoming more and more true, you know, like, you might have seen this thing play out in your head hundreds of times, but every single interaction with every single other person might be the first time they're hearing that strategy.
Yeah. So it's constantly just repeating.
Constantly repeating the same rhetoric.
Repeating, right? Just basically making people understand exactly why they're here.
Exactly.
Because sometimes as human nature we tend to forget the why behind what you do, and that hinders growth, and that hinders direction, that hinders focus. The one thing that I always basically encourage you guys is basically just to focus. You understand, because there's so many things that's happening around you, and it's like you can easily be distracted. But once you just focus on one thing, and just basically accomplish that one thing.
Make the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, 100%. Make the main thing. Yeah, because most of the time you just find yourself doing everything. Mm-hmm. You understand? And everyone just comes in and is like, okay, you know what? Now this is important. Now that's important. And you find everything is important.
But to your point, I think the interesting thing has always been like you don't have. Not everyone has to buy into a purpose, right? But I think like the work that they do is for that single purpose that everyone collectively understands. I think not defining the purpose, which is, I guess, the role of a chief repeat officer, not defining the purpose is a dangerous thing. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because
that's
then people can naturally start pulling in different directions.
Yeah. Then it just becomes a repeat cycle over and over and over. There's one CEO that I'm still yet to meet that has the coolest sneakers. I think I haven't met a CEO yet that has the coolest sneakers like Rui.
No. you want me to see
Tell me, the sneaker game has always been on top. It's like you've always had that thing about sneakers from a very young age.
From a very young age.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure. Like I've always been. I suppose if people know me, I've always been a collector of things, and what I mean by that is, like I really have a respect for things that are well made, and what I mean by well made, when like the product, I can see that the product is being like really focused on, and someone's put a lot of effort and their own passion into designing it. So typically, a lot of those things are synonymous with brands. So like, if people look at it differently, they could say that I like brands. I do like brands, but it's more around how the quality of the product shows up than the brand. The sneaker thing is exactly like that, except I think I have had this relationship with sneakers, since I really understood the principle I just described.
Yes.
The 4 or 5 year old version of me definitely had 1 or 2 pair of LA lights.
I remember those ones. Those ones were like, those classics.
Those were in actual fact, the me of today also has a pair of LA lights. So, I've just always loved shoes. I don't know what it is.
Yes, it's like
I've just always loved shoes.
And the thing is like this is who you are, you understand? You're not changing it just because of you take on this new role and basically you're this person that everyone looks up to. This is the person that people came to accept. Yeah,
I think lots of people have had conversations about like sneakers and the connotation for uniform and I get it. There are certain environments where uniform is important. Retail and pharmacy is one of them.
Yes.
But I think sneakers in the way that I suppose I need to conduct myself is a mechanism of showing my individuality, and there's always that ability to do that in any type of job, regardless of uniform or not.
Yeah.
And I think even as an employer, one of the things that we will shortly do, we launch Store of the Future, and there are ways that you can, on top of uniform, express individuality, and I think that's important because ultimately they're people behind brands. Those same people build brands.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
So to yes, there's a job that uniforms do, and like the sameness is important, because it gives gravitas to the brand. But there's also an importance behind being an individual.
Which speaks more important because now you're able to identify the person by what they dress and how they look. You understand much more the characteristics around what this person.
I think
represents.
It also makes like the sneaker thing when we first now everyone knows that I like sneakers, but the sneaker thing was quite interesting because like so many it makes it so relatable, so like when I walk into stores and a conversation generally starts about the sneakers I'm wearing, but what it actually does is it's creating a platform for like an honest conversation about things that are going wrong or things that are going right.
Yeah.
And a little bit of that sometimes gets hidden behind the title. People are scared.
That's true.
And if you're relatable, or if whatever makes you relatable, in this case maybe a pair of shoes, but like it does ease the ability to have a conversation about the thing that we're both spending 8 to 10 hours a day doing.
I find that your leadership is much more like the servant leadership type. You understand? Where in the olden days where people used to have this autocratic style of leadership, where you much more democratic style. Is that basically the way to look at things, especially being in the environment that you are right now?
I think, for me, the way that I've thought about this is, and I've been asked that question a lot. I think leadership types also suit different businesses depending on how mature they are.
Yes.
So if you think about myself or Ivan, Ivan will probably be or go down as being a more autocratic type style of leader. But the truth is he was building a brand, right?
Yes.
So he needed to be more prescriptive in the decisions that he made and the way that he managed staff.
Yeah.
Whereas what I'm doing is I'm trying to maybe shape an industry, which means my leadership style or my leadership style needs to suit what I'm trying to do. So it's really dependent to me on the maturity of the business. Where in the life cycle of the business it is, the role that the business is trying to do. Obviously it also has, it depends on the individual, but I think it's more than just the individual. If I had to start a startup today, I think my leadership style would have to adapt to some degree to make it successful. Whereas today I do maybe. I probably am best described as a servant type leader or collaborative type leader.
Yeah, which is actually quite cool, because if you think about it, that's basically, I think like the old way of leadership is basically going back to the days of the 80s where basically there were a lot of like if you look at basically the Jack Welch type of leadership that we're talking about, and those were the leaders back then, and it worked for them back then. But I stand to say, especially dealing with so much youngsters, you have to adapt and you have to be able to understand them. You understand, and what better way to do this is being able just to be much more relatable.
There's a lot of theory on the type of characteristics associated with the different generational types, and I think if you look at that theory and you translate it into leadership, there's a reason why autocratic or prescriptive type leaders were so successful in the past, because that level of comfort was needed by the employee. Whereas now, to your point, the globalization, the ability to access information so much faster, it's made the generation of today a different type of generation to lead, fundamentally different.
Yes.
And as a function of that, you need a different type of leadership, whatever you want to term that or call that. If you had to adapt a leadership style that worked in the 80s to people that are in the young part of their career today, it's illogical to think that it would work.
Yeah. No, and I think moving forward, the youngsters are looking for that environment. You understand? So as a leader, now you have to accommodate the people that's coming into your care. And I think back then, it was the reverse. It was the reverse psychology where basically people were just looking at joining companies. But now you have to create that whole environment where the culture is fit for these people to want to.
It's been super interesting. If you think about what we did with Bigley.
Yes.
If we had to try and do that maybe 30 years ago or 20 years ago, it would have been almost crazy. You had this very strong brand that was almost like a secure brand to employ people under. Why would you create this new brand and try and use that new brand to recruit resources? It wouldn't have worked. But in today's world, it definitely did work, because what the new brand in Bigley represented was a very distinct purpose around what we are trying to do. So you almost didn't need the legacy brand to do that. You had the coolness of this new brand, but people resonated with the purpose of it. And you achieved the same thing. So it's a different time, now to 30 years ago. You need different ways of working.
It's a totally different. do we take this shorter? Do I make it shorter for you?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay. Just a little bit.
Okay. It's quite interesting talking about this conversation because I definitely think that for leaders also coming up, just being able just to adapt to the environment, because most of the time what works then might not work now. You understand? And I think somebody said something so interesting on a podcast. They said, so being able to identify exactly, am I the right leader to actually take this company to the next level? And I think as leaders, sometimes it's being able to ask that hard questions, especially entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs want to hold on to
100%. It's such a valid thing, and I mean, I guess part of the transition, that I've gone through has forced me to think about that. Like, what would make me a successful leader in this environment if I had to break it down?
Yeah.
Like, in three main pockets.
Yeah.
And I think the first pocket is like you need to establish yourself in the organization. And what I mean by that is like, it's that whole concept of being safe. Like, if you're truly ambitious about the brand, then you need to make the changes that align with your ambition.
Yeah.
And you have to back yourself in a way.
Yes.
That would be the first part, right? Which I think is where I find myself in. The second part, I suppose, the second tenure of your leadership would be like, okay, once that's done, like, how do I ensure the execution of that is like world class?
Yeah.
Like, so I've made the changes. How do I ensure the execution of that is world class? And during that time, I think you're probably very relevant as a leader.
Yeah.
And then I think the third part is you start to, as a function of, I suppose, you aging versus a world that is in constant flux.
Yeah.
You start to have to like accept that. Like, I now need to find the person that is relevant for this space going forward, and it's your responsibility.
Yes.
And I think that tenor, if I had to think about it now, that tenor of a leader, as a function of how quickly the world is adapting, is probably a lot shorter than what it used to be.
Wow.
Because the relevance of you naturally is shorter.
It's shorter,
it has to be, because the world's moving so much faster.
That's true.
So I think, that's the way I think about it.
No, that's so true. I like the way you say it, because if you think about it, you have this lifespan and the knowledge and the capabilities of only doing X amount. But eventually somebody's going to come in with a whole different idea, a whole different ideology, and will actually shape to where the company might go to in the future.
There will be a better version of Roy to run this group at one day. Not the cooler shoes, but a better version.
What's the one thing that you want to remember, especially if that could have so happened? I mean, like, what's the one thing that you would like to be remembered as the leader of this camp?
I think the thing that it sounds ambitious, but I really do think that the one thing that I would want to be remembered with alongside my team is like the people that were brave enough to change the industry of healthcare delivery in South Africa. Yeah. And when I say change an industry, not change an industry for the sake of changing an industry to achieve the same result, but legitimately to make healthcare more affordable and accessible to South Africans. I think if I could leave looking back and saying, like, the decisions I made together with the team that I had and the organization that we built, like, they made the lives of millions of South Africans easier. Yeah. Like, I think that would be I would reward myself with a pair of cool shoes.
Wow, that's really ambitious. I mean, like, that's such a massive goal, and sometimes we look at it and it's like it looks small, but if you unpack it, how many lives are you impacting just by achieving that type of goal?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I think that is one of the coolest things about retail, is that you actually do get constant reminders of the things that you're chasing down. You know, whether it's a compliment from, someone who has experienced one of the things that you've changed recently, and it's kind of aligned with what you're trying to do. Very recently I was in a store and I overheard a conversation between, like, an elderly couple. Yeah. and they were talking about the reward program, and I got a sense that they had actually only realized how the reward program worked.
Yeah.
And it was quite a cool moment where I think they were husband and wife, but the lady said to her partner,
yes,
like we can go for something along the lines of we can go for a nice dinner at the end of the month. And like it was just it's in those moments where you're reminded that like it's some of the things we're doing are cool.
No, that's proper. That's proper because now you're impacting lives and basically
and it was a small thing. It was a dinner, but I mean you could easily see how that could be. Well, in this instance, I can take care of my health this month, or you can see that thing materializing.
Yeah, just that's a problem. The one thing I wanted to find out from you is that your time, I mean, like from basically the chief financial executive. Now your time in a day has become so compressed because you have like back-to-back meetings and you this person that has to speak for the company and be the voice for everyone. How do you manage that? Huh?
So that is one of the hardest things. Like time management for me is a tough thing. I think it's a function of.
Sorry.
No, it's a function of like. Me as an individual wanting to understand the details of the decisions that we're making, but at the same time, I suppose realizing that I also can't be a bottleneck. So I mean, what I try and do is I try and, as I said, make the main thing the main thing, and I think I've become better at letting certain things go. Certainly empowering the team to make the decisions aligned with what we're trying to achieve. I think only when you do that can you really be disciplined about how you allocate your time. So for example, I really do try and force myself, and it's not a natural thing to try and do because you think when you think, but I really try and give myself the space to enable myself to think.
Because you have to be in the moment at time, especially when you're in those type of sessions as well.
Yeah, because you can quickly get caught up in executing and forgetting that the role that I play is a little bit about imagining the direction of the next steps for the business.
Yes.
And you can't do that in a meeting that is after the next meeting before the next one. You need a little bit of time to think. And sometimes, I mean, that's the reason I run, for example. That happens in your personal space. Sometimes it happens during the day, but I think being disciplined about that time is important.
Yeah, because that's what steals up majority of the day, and sometimes you find yourself in meetings and you ask yourself, what am I doing here? You understand, and you have to be honest with yourself.
You have to. I mean, you almost have to have this. And there's a couple of people in the team that do it really well. You have to be really, really disciplined about the return on your time. Because you can quickly get pulled into meetings where you contribute because you contribute, because you're there. But whether you were there or not would have made no difference.
Would make no difference. That's true. That's so true. So I think as a leader, I think one of the things that I find so fascinating and something that I also picked up from you as well is that when you're on your A game is basically when you run in the morning and you feel on top of your game, and I feel like running has contributed so much to your life as well. Just take me to the journey. Was it always like that, or it just came about?
No, I mean I think it wasn't always like that. So I think there's always been a physical element to the things that I do. So what I mean by that is I've always felt the need to have some form of physical exercise, like to stimulate me mentally. So I mean it depends on, I suppose, on the time of my life, but I used to play like a lot of field hockey. I played a lot of football.
Okay.
I played lots of different sports, but I think it was less about the sport and it was more about like how it made you feel, like how it empowered you to show up. So I guess what running is to me today is exactly that, just in a better packaged way. Like you can run from anywhere. It doesn't take long to go. You can. It's quiet. Like I can think, and it's not something that you need to naturally arrange. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with people. So I suppose that's why it's running, but it's the principle of just any sort of physical exercise contributing to like your mental ability and just being a better person, I guess.
But I think like you're overachiever because my time is like 5. I average around 5. Understand? And I saw your time. You're like 4 point something.
Yeah, but you're much better than me.
But still, I mean, it's like, it's like, so it just tells you a lot about a person that's running as well, because this person is like.
Yeah, I mean, look,
yeah.
like it is. I am super competitive. Sometimes there's also no need to be that competitive. When you're running by yourself, there's no need to be competitive. But it does.
I feel like you're just always pushing yourself.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, it's just. I guess it's just part of who I am.
Yeah, which is quite cool, because I mean, like, because I think it's like exactly like that small incremental improvements that you make, like on yourself on a daily basis, because you don't want to remain the same. You understand?
Yeah.
You don't want to just run a 6-kilometer race the whole time. You want to be able to improve all the time.
Exactly.
What was your best time in a
race?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the distance, but my best 21 time was like 89 minutes. So I think I've only broken 90 minutes, which is something I wanted to do. Only broken it once, but it was 89 minutes, and I don't have the greatest marathon time because that's far for my small legs.
Yeah.
But that was like 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah. But it actually takes you. The one thing I like about running much more than anything else is just basically being able to have the mindset for it, you understand? Because it tells you a lot about a person that's running as well.
Yeah, it does. I think any sort of endurance sport does that.
Yeah.
It definitely does. Like,
it just challenges you on
your mental ability to push past the hard times, and because there are many times where you could find many other things to do that would be more comfortable than what you're doing.
Yeah, that's so true. What's the one piece of advice that you think was the best advice that you ever received, especially embarking on your career?
I mean, for me, outside of the very practical advice that I got from my dad around, I mean, and it depends what you want around, route to decision making, which I think was the CA route, and I'm very grateful that I made that decision. But the one piece of advice, and I kind of summarized it in a quote for myself when I was relatively young, but the one piece of advice that really came from my mom, my late mom, was this concept of like defining success for yourself based on your own kind of perspective on your own abilities. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, you could quite easily get stuck into the space where other people define success, and depending on how you view your own abilities, you might be considered very successful by other people, but you're still kind of shortchanging yourself. Because you think you're so capable of so much more.
Much more, yes.
So I think for me that was a huge piece of advice, like this concept of like you know yourself best, you define what success means for yourself because you have the best understanding of your potential. Yeah. And you can be the most honest with yourself, and I think that's always stuck with me. Like from when I was. That's
actually quite powerful.
Yeah, 12 or 13, and that concept is always stuck with me because, like, especially as you become more successful, like perceptively, just how the human is, like people tell you're successful, and you quite quickly can drown into that and not continue to deliver on the things that you're ultimately capable of. I think that's probably been the best.
Because they're defining success based on their perspective as well. Yeah,
and sometimes based on material things, sometimes based on like how high a profile you have, when the reality is like success is none of that. And, you know, it's about how true you are to the ambitions or the impact you want to make in the world. So that's the thing that's always struck with me.
Wow, that's so powerful. On top of that, the previous guest asked the question. So we have this thing like where the previous guest asks the next guest a question. And the question was around what impact are you intending to make on South Africa in the current state that it is in?
So for me, like it's such a super simple answer. Like to me, like healthcare is a basic human right. Like there is a direct relationship between healthcare and your ability to economically grow this country. Like you cannot do anything at your full potential if you are not well. Or if your family is not well, or if your concerns are about keeping your family well because you can't access healthcare. And for me, like if I can give more access, which means bringing the brand closer to people and reducing the cost. I'm establishing a platform for South Africans who are incredibly able to grow this country, grow this country. And like that's really at the crux of it, whether it's our brand positioning, whether it's my personal ambition, whether it's the team chasing down our purpose, that's at the center of it.
That's the center of it. And I love that because like you said, everyone needs it.
Yeah.
And it's a priority.
I mean, you just have to think about like the most granular thing, like when you have flu.
Yes.
Like you are a 50% version of yourself.
That's true.
And that is a representation of what I described. Like if you're healthy, you can do a lot more than if you're not.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so in closing, could you be able to drop a question, but we don't know who's next.
Oh, okay.
I think like you have to drop a question for the next person that will be sitting on this founder's chair.
Can I ask him to describe or her to describe why we are so much better than Clicks?
Of course.
No, I'm kidding. I think my question would be like, is there a specific thing that you think about that defines when you realize that you are not ultimately the appropriate leader for the thing that you're trying to do? Like, as he or she thinks about it, like, what is the thing that you ultimately see one day and it kind of strikes you and says, okay, like my time is done.
It's done,
like it's in the hands of someone else.
Wow.
That would be a question.
Wow, that's powerful. So you heard it from Rui, the CEO of Dis-Chem Pharmacy, and thank you very much for joining the Founders Chair. It was such an honor to have you on this chair.
It was very cool, thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you very much for being part of this. It truly means a lot, and I hope you gained a lot of golden nuggets out of us like I did, and stay tuned to the next episode. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share it with any youngster out there that would like to take on this journey and become the next CEO or founder of a great company. Thank you very much, guys.